Okay, let's get started. The very bottom of 1307. We talked about the line Friday where Ophelia said, line 43, I think it is, Lord, we know what we are, but not what we may be. God be at your table. And the king says, conceit upon her father. That is, her mind is focused on her father. The word conceit means conception, idea of imagination, etc. Okay? So, Ophelia goes on and she sings, and the king speaks to her and she sings again, and the king asks, how long has she been like this? 66. Ophelia, hope all will be well, we must be patient, blah, blah, blah. She leaves, okay? King asks Horatio, keep an eye on her. And then he says, this is the poison of deep grief. It springs all from her father's death. Entirely caused by Polonius' death, the king says. True or false? Is there anything else that could have caused, that could have lent to her madness? I think it begins when Polonius tells her to make herself scarce around Hamlet, so that Hamlet no longer has any interaction with her. And then when she confronts Hamlet, or he confronts her, however you want to put that, in Act 3, Scene 1, after his to be or not to be speech, and he tells her, I did love thee once, and then they talk a couple more minutes, and then he says, I love thee not, okay? And she finishes that speech with, oh, what a noble mind is here overthrown, the courtier, soldier, scholar's eye, tongue, sword. This is 3.1.142. The expectancy and rose of the fair state, the glass of fashion, the mold of form, the observed of all observers, quite down, and I of ladies most dejected and wretched, blah, blah, blah. Oh, woe is me to have seen what I have seen what I see. I think she's on her way at that point. Polonius' death pushes her over, but she's already on her way. The king goes on. Oh, Gertrude, Gertrude, when sorrows come, they come not single spies, but in battalions. What's he mean by that? Yeah, when it rains, it pours. So what might he be suggesting? Is this the pouring? Or are these just the initial drops for the storm that's about to come? I think it's the latter. First, her father slain. Again, he's talking about first in leading to Ophelia's madness. First, her father slain. Next, your son gone. Okay, so he does attribute some of her madness to Hamlet, but it's the Hamlet's leaving Denmark to go to England. Yeah, no. And he, most violent author of his own just remove. That is, Hamlet is responsible for his being removed from Denmark. True or false? You could say, well, according to one way of thinking, true, but then you could say, according to another way of thinking, false. The people muddied, thick and unwholesome in their thoughts and whispers for good Polonius' death. Muddied. How's he describing the people? What metaphor is he using? They're like water that's now all stirred up and dirty. It's not clear. The people, he's saying, are thinking, what about Claudius's death? Polonius' death. they don't have a single answer. There's all kinds of what going on? Rumors. Things are being said. Thick and unwholesome in their thoughts and whispers. I think he's saying, and some have even attributed it to me. Okay? And we have done but greenly, that is foolishly, your gloss tells you, in hugger mugger to inter him. Hugger mugger. You've got a gloss down at the bottom. Secret haste. Polonius was buried very quickly after Hamlet revealed where the body was. What did Polonius not receive in his burial? Laertes is going to talk about this. Final rites, probably. That is, it wasn't a Christian burial in the sense that there weren't priests, there weren't prayers, there wasn't the church funeral service. What else did he not get? Public ceremony. I mean, this guy's the right-hand man to the king. And he didn't get this public proclamation, the whole 9 yards. So, king goes on. Poor Ophelia, divided from herself and her fair judgment, without the which we are pictures or mere beasts. Divided. Herself from her judgment. What is Claudius suggesting about Ophelia? We use this term today. People colloquially use this term today to describe what? Schizo. Someone's crazy, right? What do they mean by that? Well, it used to be a little bit more, what term do I want? Accurate, but it's not accurate. To describe somebody who had what is now called multiple personality disorder. There's a famous woman, 60s I think it was, Sylvia or something like that. She had, I think it was 28 or 29 different personalities. Each one totally kind of complete, okay? And when a personality was reigning, the others had no idea of what was happening during that time. So when Eve did something, Shirley didn't remember it, kind of a thing, okay? Shakespeare is, I think he's wrestling with this idea of how a person can be divided from him or herself. Because we have this idea in this play, in Hamlet. We see it to an extent in Macbeth, because Macbeth gets divided from himself. We see it definitely in King Lear. We see it in Othello. We see it in most of Shakespeare's late tragedies. And I just wonder why. Did Shakespeare know someone like this? Was it his father? His father died in, 1601. His mother dies in 1608. Lear is clearly, it's about a whole bunch of things, but one of the things that a lot of folks, maybe not, many scholars suggest is that it's also about very clearly dementia. Okay? Poor Ophelia, divided from herself and her fair judgment. Fair judgment. What's meant by judgment? Probably reason, rationality, logical self. What's the self then? If the self isn't part of reason, rationality, judgment, what is it? The I. So how does the I get divided from that? The reason I'm kind of emphasizing this is we're going to see the clowns, the gravediggers, talk about Ophelia as being crazy to an extent. And one of them's going to say, she practiced self-defense against herself in terms of committing suicide. We'll talk about that when we get to it. Divided from herself in her fair judgment, without the which, that is, if we are divided from our judgment, our ability to discern right from wrong, to reason, Claudius says we are what then? We are either pictures or animals. Right? Because a portrait of somebody doesn't make a value judgment. It doesn't think. It just is. And mere beasts, a tiger in the subcontinent of India doesn't see a little baby that's been left by the side of a river and go, I'm hungry. Should I? Or should? No, I probably shouldn't. That wouldn't be right to eat a child. But I'm hungry. No. Food. Last, that is, last what? These are the dangers that come in battalions. So first isn't only referring to necessarily what drives Ophelia crazy. I think he's getting at the sorrows that are coming. Okay? Last, and as much containing all these, her brother comes in secret from France. Here's why I say go back to the first and say it doesn't only apply to Ophelia. She doesn't know Laertes has come from France. The king does, but Ophelia doesn't. That can't be one of the things that's driven her crazy. But all the other things kind of have. Because if she heard some of the stories that the people out there are saying, okay, about why her father died and such. So, lest her brother is in secret come from France, feeds on his wonder, keeps himself in clouds, feeds on his wonder, his amazement, his awe of what? Polonius' death. Why is he in wonder? Why is he in awe? He doesn't know what happened. And so the mind does what? It feeds on that instability, that uncertainty. Okay? And he keeps himself in clouds, that is, hidden. I don't know where Laertes is. He's hiding. And wants not buzzers to infect his ear. Buzzers, gossipers. Buzzing like bees. That's not the part that should be glossed. The part that should be glossed is wants not. Doesn't mean he doesn't desire. It means he doesn't lack for people putting ideas into his mind. Hey, Laertes, you might have heard it was Hamlet. Wasn't Hamlet. The king did it. To infect his ear, and notice the image, by the way. How did Hamlet Sr. die? His ear was infected with poison. Notice poison can physically kill you, and it can also kind of morally kill you, or spiritually kill you. With pestilent speeches of his father's death, wherein necessity of matter beggared, will nothing stick our person to arraign in ear in ear. In other words, I'm in danger. Oh, my Gertrude, this, like to a murdering pace in many places, gives me superfluous death. That is, it's like I've died before I've died. Claudius thinks his days are numbered. There's a noise. The king, where are my Switzers? That is, my Swiss guards, who are to protect me. Let them guard the door. A messenger comes in and says, Laertes is here in a riotous head. Riotous. He wants to overthrow you. It could also just mean he's at the head of a riot. He's leading a mob. The rabble call him Lord. And as the world were now but to begin, antiquity forgot, custom not know, the ratifiers and props of every word, they cry, choose we, Laertes shall be king. All those lines, and as the world were now but to begin, mean they've thrown the custom of hundreds of years out the door. What's the custom of hundreds of years? Are kings chosen by the people? No, they are not. The people, at this time, had no say. They tried in England in the 16th century. People tried to rise up against Henry VIII, first of all. He put him down. His son, Edward VI, his advisors put them down. I mean, there were literal uprisings in the north of England. Okay? They were slaughtered. 1588 and following, after the Spanish Armada attempted to invade England, there's a Catholic uprising. Elizabeth put it down. Okay? So you have at least 3 periods of uprisings within 100 years of this play. It goes against tradition, goes against history and all that kind of stuff. And they cry, choose we, Laertes shall be king, Laertes king. Okay? King, the doors are broke. That is, he hears, it's like the external doors, the outer doors have been broken through. Laertes comes in with others. That is, these others are behind him. Where's the king? Sir, stand you all. That is, he's speaking to the Danes. Follow. No, you guys stay out. Let me deal with the king. No, we're coming with you. Okay? They go back outside the door. Laertes, oh, thou vile king, give me my father. Now, he knows his father's dead. He knows his father's been buried. What's he saying? Do the impossible. Queen, calmly, good Laertes. Why did she tell him that? She's warning him. This is the king you're speaking to. Back off, buddy. That drop of blood that's calm proclaims me bastard. Notice, drop. One drop of my blood that tells me to be calm, or that is calm, is bastard from my father. That is not the rightful heir of my father. Cries cuckold to my father, brands the harlot even here, between the chaste unbesmirched brow of my true mother. Every drop of my blood wants what? What kind of play is this? It's a revenge tragedy. It sounds like Hamlet in his quote-unquote hotter moments. His dull revenge that has been, etc. King, Laertes, what is the cause that thy rebellion looks so giant-like? Giant-like, as in to overthrow the king. Let him go, Gertrude. No, that's a stage direction. Because what has Gertrude apparently done? She's walked up and tried to take hold of Laertes. He goes, no, let him go. Why? Do not fear our person. There's such divinity doth hedge a king that treason can but peep to what it would, acts little of his will. In other words, to me, a king, treason is like a what? Something that peeps like a mouse. Why? There's a divinity that hedges about a king. Hamlet's going to talk about divinity later on, and divinity shaping our destinies. All right? What's he mean it hedges a king? What do you put around a castle? A moat. What do you put inside of the moat before the castle itself? A big old wall. That's what divinity, he says, does to a king. What literary term is this an example of that we've already discussed with Antigone and Oedipus the king? Think of what he is saying and think of what he has done. It's dramatic irony. Why? Where was the divinity hedging about the king when he poured poison into Hamlet Sr.'s ear? It's like divinity hedged and said, oh, but there's a door. Just go right on through it. This, by the way, is alluding to the notion of the divine right of kings, which Shakespeare plays with, investigates, or I'll use a modern critical term, interrogates in all of his English history plays. There's 8 of them. Because all the English historical kings assert they rule by divine right. Probably goes back to Romans 12. Paul says, all government is instituted by God. Therefore, follow your leaders. Doesn't mean follow, get in the line and follow. It means obey. Okay? And the kings, good and bad, said, you're stuck with me no matter what. Until another king offs them. Henry IV, part 1, Henry becomes Henry IV because he kills Richard II, essentially. Okay? So, I'm not worried about this little pipsqueak. Tell me, Laertes, why art thou thus incensed? What has you so angry? Let him go, Gertrude. Where's my father? Dead. Gertrude, not by him. And I almost imagine she stands in front of the king. No, he didn't do it. By doing that, who is Gertrude? He didn't do it, so what should be the next question? Well, then who did? Oh, can't tell you that either. Shh. Shut up, woman. Let him speak, Let him demand his fill. How came he dead? Odd way of putting it, right? He doesn't say who killed him. How came he dead? Very passive voice. It's like Polonius just woke up one morning and then he was dead. I'll not be joking. Don't play games with me. To hell, allegiance. Allegiance to whom? The crown, the throne. See, allegiance, ideally speaking, in a monarchical society, as it is in the United States, isn't to the person occupying the throne. It's to the throne. As in the United States, it isn't to the particular president, it's to the office of the presidency. Little plug here. What is it, Netflix? Great new short series, like 10 episodes, called The Night Agent. It's about President CIA, not CIA, Secret Service, FBI and such. Assassination attempt. Anyways, there's one great scene where one of the Secret Service agents, I think it is Secret Service, might be FBI, says essentially that I protect the office, not the person. It's the office that's all important. That's why when you have, movies that have, we have to save the president at all costs. No, you don't. You save the office because the president can be what? That's why we have a vice president. Can be replaced. Okay? To hell allegiance. Vows to the blackest pit, that is the lowest pit of hell. Vows what? To faithfully serve one's Lord. Conscience and grace to the profoundest pit. Sorry, it was vows to the blackest devil. Conscience and grace to the profoundest pit. Conscience, that internal clock or compass that tells you right from wrong. Grace, in both the Catholic tradition, the Protestant tradition, the general Christian tradition, favor shown by God to individuals. Go to hell. dare damnation. Come and get me. To this point I stand, that both the worlds I give to negligence. He despises both the here and the hereafter. I don't care what happens to me, is what Laertes is saying. Let come what comes, only I'll be revenged. Notice he sounds a little bit more worked up than Hamlet really ever has, except for right after Hamlet spoke to the ghost. King, who's going to stop you? My will. That is the only thing that can stop me is my choice, my volition. Not all the worlds, and for my means I'll husband them so well they shall go far with little. He says, okay, Laertes, calm down. You want to know the certainty of your father? Is it writ in your revenge, the swoopstake you will, that is, have you already decided, is it already set in motion, you're going to kill a whole bunch of people as well as the murder of your father? Is that what you want? None but his enemies. Who were Polonius's enemies? Was Hamlet Polonius's enemy? No, he wasn't. Oh, so you only would kill his enemy. Do you want to know who they are? I can tell you who his enemies are. To his good friends thus wide, I'll open my arms. That is, to my father's friends, always welcome to me. And like the kind life-rendering pelican, repass them with my blood. So he says, now you speak like a good child and a true gentleman. Good child, good son of a father, who wants to do what? Avenge his father's death. I'm guiltless of your father's death. Okay? In fact, I grieve for it. And it shall as level to your judgment appear as day does to your eyes. That is, and I'll be able to prove it to your judgment. They hear a noise. Ophelia comes in. Okay? Laertes says some lines. Why? What's Ophelia doing when she comes in? She's not singing quite yet. But she looks just totally bonkers. And she starts to sing. Laertes tries to speak to her. She doesn't really reply. She leaves. God have mercy on his soul, and of all Christian souls I pray God be with you. Well, that's nice. She's praying for everybody. That God would be with them. Laertes, do you see this, O God? She's just prayed for everybody. Laertes is like, I'm going to kill the bastard. Laertes, I must commune with your grief. That is, I share with your grief. Or you deny me right. Go, hold on. Step away for a few minutes, make choice of whom your wisest friend you will, and they shall hear and judge twixt you and me. Go, find your closest friends, and they will decide between what you believe and what I have to say. He's saying, I will be able to prove to you I didn't kill your father. All right? If by direct or by collateral hand they find us touched, whether directly or indirectly, if I'm responsible, we will our kingdom give, our crown, our life, and all that we call ours to you in satisfaction. You get it all, Laertes. Does he have the right to give the kingdom to him? No, he doesn't. Okay? You okay? All right? You cool with that, Laertes? Be you content? He goes, okay. But his means of death, his obscure funeral, no trophy sword or hatchment over his bones, no noble right. These demand to be, heard. Don't worry. Okay, scene 6. Horatio and others come in. Sailor gives Horatio a packet. Horatio opens the letter, reads it from Hamlet. Hamlet talks about, he's back in Denmark. 2 days they were on the sea. A pirate ship came up. Hamlet boarded the pirate ship during a battle. The pirates took him away. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, they're still on their way for England. I'll tell you more about them later. Okay? Scene 7. Laertes and the king come in. Now must your conscience my acquittance seal, and you must put me in your heart for friend. Your conscience, knowledge that this is true, if you want, must do what? Must seal my acquittance. That is, you have to admit I didn't do it. I am acquitted of the crime. What seemingly has happened between scene 5 and scene 7? Laertes, Claudius, and Laertes' friends have met. Claudius offered as proof for why he didn't kill Hamlet. And Laertes' friends agreed. Okay, so, I'm your friend. Since you have heard, and with a knowing ear, that he which hath your noble father slain pursued my life. What's his real piece of evidence? Hamlet thought he was killing me. Where does that piece of evidence come from? What did Hamlet say? Is it the king? And Gertrude's like, no. Shoot. Hamlet, Laertes, it well appears. That is, it appears that way. Let's go back for a second. Is the king indirectly involved in Polonius' death? You're nodding your head yes, Lydia. Why?
Because the whole reason that Hamlet stabbed.
Okay, I mean, we could take all the way back to first causes. Why else?
He ordered them to spy on him.
Polonius offered and he gave approval. Therefore, he was a lawful espial. Just as before the to be or not to be speech, the king says, we being lawful espials. Why is it lawful? Because I'm the king and I said so. Okay? Polonius was working for the king when he was killed. Therefore, the king is indirectly involved. Question is, did he ever tell Laertes that part? So, it so appears that way. But tell me why you proceeded not against these feats, so criminal, so capital in nature, as by your safety, wisdom, all things else, you mainly were stirred up. Why didn't you act against Hamlet? You knew he was dangerous. Why didn't you stop him? You could say indirectly involved, and that's what Laertes is getting at. He's implying, were you weak? 2 reasons. I've got 2 reasons I didn't act against Hamlet. First one, he is so loved by his mother, it would have destroyed her. And if it would have destroyed her, that would have destroyed Claudius. Why? Because his mother, Hamlet's mother, Gertrude, is so beloved by Claudius. And it is implied, it's never directly stated, that Claudius probably secretly loved Gertrude a lot longer than just after killing Hamlet Sr. I don't mean having an affair. I mean in his heart. He wanted Gertrude for a lot longer. Okay? So he says, I couldn't live without her, so I couldn't kill Hamlet. Second reason, why to a public count I might not go. Public account, reckoning. Why he couldn't have an indictment, of Hamlet is this. The great love the general gender bear him, who, dipping all his faults in their affection, would, like the spring that turneth wood to stone, convert his gyves to graces. Why couldn't he publicly go against Hamlet? Because everybody loves him. Okay? I mean, we don't have somebody like Hamlet in our society. I don't think. Maybe we do. Maybe you could think of somebody. It sure as hell isn't Trump, and it sure as hell isn't Biden, because the country's, 50-50 pretty much. Not the Clintons, not Obama. I don't know how far we'd go back. Not Kennedy, not Roosevelt. Washington probably is the last one like this, because half the country hated Lincoln, the other half loved him. Washington was pretty much the only one everybody was full bore behind. Okay? That's what he means. They are so enamored of him. If I spoke out against him, what? The people would be up in arms. He says, and my arrows, that is, arrows I would have metaphorically aimed at Hamlet, too slightly timbered for so loud a wind, they would have returned. And he would have, to use Hamlet's phrase, have been hoist by his own petard. Notice, the phrase doesn't matter. What's the idea? That those who work by conspiracy, by plotting, tend to get undone by their own plots. Laertes, and so I have a noble father lost. My father's dead. Why? What's his real point? Because you wouldn't act against Hamlet. Because you're not man enough to have done the job. A sister driven into desperate terms, whose worth the praises may go back again, stood challenger on mount of all the stage for her perfections. So, my father's dead, and my sister, whom everyone praised as the ideal of womanhood, is now gone. But my revenge will come. Don't worry about your revenge. Break not your sleeps for that. Don't stay awake thinking about that. He goes, you got to think I'm made of sterner stuff. I've got an idea. In other words, I have a plot. Go back through the entire play. Look at all the little plots, or the plottings of conspirators, so to speak. So he says, I've got an idea, and I'd like to teach you. A messenger comes in. He gets interrupted. From Hamlet. From Hamlet? Why is the king surprised? He's supposed to be in England and dead. So he reads, High and mighty, you shall know I am set naked on your kingdom. Tomorrow shall I beg leave to see your kingly eyes, when I shall, first asking your pardon thereunto, recount the occasion of my sudden and more strange return. Notice, I will beg your pardon for my not being dead. It's kind of what he's saying. And when he says, you shall know I am set naked, your gloss tells you naked means without retinue. He doesn't have followers. He's not like Laertes. Laertes has followers. It can mean also, I am set without arms. I come unarmed to you. Okay? Laertes. Is that his handwriting? Yep, sure is. Can you devise me? That is. What do you think this means, Laertes? Not a clue. I'm lost in it, my lord. But let him come. That is, I'll be here. Let him come. It warms the very sickness in my heart, that I shall live and tell him to his teeth, thus didst thou. And what should Laertes do when he says that? Then he'll go up to shake Hamlet's hand, and thus you did to my father. Okay, now that would be a public act, right? I mean, somebody would see it. even if it's nobody else but the king. And it would be pretty clear it's Laertes' sword, dagger, whatever. King, well, okay, I mean, that's one way, I guess, you could do that. Maybe there's another way to kill him. Would you be ruled by me? Would you listen to my idea? He goes, yeah, as long as you don't overrule me to a peace. That is, just don't tell me to make peace with Hamlet. No. Your own peace, that's what I'm for. You will get peace, he says. If he be now returned as checking out his voyage, and that he means no more to undertake it, I will work him to an exploit. Now ripen my device, under the which he shall not choose but fall, and for his death no wind of blame. That is, I've got an idea that we can arrange it so that Hamlet will die, clearly, and no one will be blamed for it. The perfect crime. He goes, okay, I like the idea. But I get to be the organ. That is, I get to be the agent of Hamlet's death. He goes, no, that's cool. You've been talked of since your travel. And that in Hamlet's hearing, for a quality wherein they say, you shine. So he's saying, around here in the castle, people have been praising you when Hamlet's nearby. And it does what to Hamlet to hear this aspect of Laertes praised? I used to like to teach, I wish we still had it, in rooms with chalkboards, because I do that. Because that's what it did to Hamlet, to hear Laertes praised in this particular means. He's talking about Laertes' skill with a foil. A foil isn't a sword. A foil is a square rod of steel. Okay? About anywhere from 4 to 6 feet long, pointed at the end, okay? Used for fencing. And it's not sharp on the edges, okay? So not like a sword. And in a fencing match, you score points by touching the other person with the tip. And in a fencing match, not a fight, fencing match, the tip is what's called baited. It has like a rubber plug or a wooden plug on the end of it, so it's not sharp. And when you hit somebody with it, the foil bends. It's very flexible. All right? You take that rubber or wooden tip off and you hit somebody with it, it's like a needle. It just whoosh, goes right in them. Okay? You don't score points by hitting somebody with the side of the foil. So you've got to be good. All right? So they go on and talk quite a bit. That he is especially good with his rapier, line 96 and following. And it makes Hamlet jealous that other people think Laertes is so good. Now, the fact that they're going to fight with foils is interesting because Laertes is, literary term, a foil for Hamlet. He is a character who is designed to bring out certain positive qualities in Hamlet. Okay? Just like we saw with Antigone in Oedipus the King. And to some extent, Midsummer Night's Dream. But you usually have foils more in tragedies than you do in comedies. So, they go back and forth, and the king tells Laertes what he's thinking. I'll set up a match, and we'll make it so that midway during the fencing match, the tip will come off, and you will pierce Hamlet. Okay? Laertes, I'll do it. Bottom of page 1316, line 137. Moreover, so I'll kill Hamlet by piercing him with the foil. 2, to make sure he's really dead, I'll poison the tip with some poison that I just happen to have with me that I brought back from France. Okay? In fact, I don't even have to puncture him with it. If I just scratch him with this poison, he'll be dead within half an hour. Okay? Cool. King. Okay, that's good, that's good. So we've got two ways of killing him. I'll add a third. I'll have you guys take a break because you're winded and tired, and I'll hand Hamlet a drink that I'll put poison in. So notice, Hamlet's gonna die. It's pretty clear. Notice the level of plotting. Okay? Go back to 'tis sport to have the engineer hoisted by his own petard. They're going to be hoisted by these petards. Okay? So the queen comes in. One woe to tread upon another's heel, so fast they follow. Your sister's dead, Laertes. I mean, no buttering him up. No, maybe you should sit down, have a drink. I've got some bad news for you. No preparation. Your sister's drowned. Drowned? Where? And she talks about where. Very famous painting. Man, I still can't remember the name of the painter. 19th century. And it's Ophelia lying on her back, which is kind of odd because she wouldn't necessarily be dead if she was on her back because she's floating. She's on her back. Her gown is all spread out around her. And there's flowers everywhere. And she's just calmly floating down the river. Well, what are we told by Gertrude? There's a willow, it grows over a brook, and she was on the branch picking flowers, apparently on the bank side. And the branch fell, and she fell in the water. And her clothes, because there's so much, the volume sucks in so much water, it pulls her down and she can't get out. She drowns. Question. Accidental or suicide? Act 5. Churchyard. Two clowns enter. First clown, second clown. What are they really? They're not clowns. They're grave diggers. They're called clowns because they're humorous. Is she to be buried in Christian burial when she willfully seeks her own salvation? Willfully seeks her own salvation. That's a nice euphemism for killing herself. I tell thee she is. She hath made her grave, therefore make her grave straight. The crowner, has sat on her and finds it a Christian burial. There's been a coroner's inquest, and the coroner determined this was an accidental death. Okay? Make her grave straight, your gloss tells you, possibly meaning straight from east to west. Like traditional Christian burial, the grave faces the east, and the person is laid in the grave with their head towards the west, feet towards the east, so that when they rise in the resurrection, they look and they face the east, the rising sun. Okay? How can that be? That is, how can she get a Christian burial unless she drowned herself in her own defense? Drowned herself in her own defense. Self-defense. She drowned herself in self-defense. Must be se offendendo. You've got a gloss down at the bottom. Say defendendo, that is self-defense against somebody else. Here, the clown says, say offendendo. Self-offense is what that means. Cannot be else, for here lies the point. If I drown myself wittingly, that is knowingly, it argues an act. An act has three branches. To act, to do, to perform. Therefore, she drowned herself willingly. Just stop. The other one says, here stands the man, good. Here stands water, here stands the man. If the man go to the water, drown himself, it is willy-nilly, he goes, mark you that. But if the water comes to him and drowns him, then he didn't drown himself. But is this law? Yes, the coroner. In England, and it was true in Shakespeare's day, if there was a death and the cause was unknown, there had to be a coroner's inquest. Like today. If somebody dies, and it's not clear what the cause of death is, like maybe old age or illness or something, coroner does an autopsy. to determine the cause. Okay? What are they getting at? It's kind of this idea. The king said, her fair self is divided from her judgment. The clowns are playing with that idea. Like, her fair self did what? Killed herself in defense against her judgment. Like her judgment was attacking her. We would say this person is what? Crazy. Okay? So, the second clown then brings in an issue of class. She wouldn't have gotten Christian burial if she weren't a gentlewoman. In other words, if some slob, I'm going to pick on somebody, but I don't mean it obviously, Lydia, drowned herself, not being a high status woman, you wouldn't get Christian burial. You'd be buried outside the churchyard. Okay? Shakespeare's, this is dangerous territory. But he puts it in the words or in the mouth of an idiot. Therefore, it's safe. See, king's jesters, king's fools, they could say stuff nobody else could. For the simple reason they were thought to be touched by God. Literally, like God would, and that just kind of went to the brains. And the person walks around saying all kinds of stupid stuff. But Shakespeare's plays, all the fools in saying stupid stuff, to use a paraphrase of Polonius, there's method in the madness, as there were in what are called holy fools. All right? So, they keep talking. We're going to skip a bunch. Hamlet and Horatio come in from a distance. And the first clown's down in the grave. He's digging the grave, and he throws up a skull. Why? It's not a new grave. This is an old grave. For the simple reason, Denmark is a pretty small country. You got to reuse the land. Okay? Like we do in some places in the United States. Go to New Orleans. You got graves on top of the graves on top of the graves. And they're all above ground. Why? Because all of New Orleans is under the sea level. Which is why hurricanes, real stupid to build there. But that's another matter. Hamlet, has this fellow no feeling of his business? 957. That sings at grave making? I mean, come on, buddy. Feel some solemnity here. Somebody's just died. And you're here singing songs. Horatio, custom hath made it in him a property of easiness. He's done it so long and so often, he's not personally racked by death anymore. We would say he's become desensitized to death. I mean, just imagine yourself as a pathologist. Body's brought into the morgue, and you're sitting there cutting it open, taking a bite of a sandwich and removing the lungs, and because you're used to it, okay? So, throws up another skull. Hamlet. That skull had a tongue in it and could sing once. How the name jowls it to the ground, okay? And Hamlet goes on and lists a bunch of different people or classes of people that skull could have been. It could have been a politician. It could have been a courtier. It could have been a lady. It could have been a lawyer, etc. Okay? Horatio's like, yep. What's your point, Hamlet? So Hamlet asked, 1321, we've got 2 minutes left, 1 minute left. Hamlet asked, line 119, how long hast thou been a grave maker? To the first clown. He says, since the day that our Lord Hamlet that's dead defeated Fortinbras, previous king of Norway. How long is that? Don't you know? Everybody knows that. The very day young Hamlet was born. He that is gone to England. Why is he gone to England? Well, because he's crazy. So, well, everybody in England's crazy, so they won't know that he's crazy over there. Hamlet. How long? Why, here in Denmark, I have been sexton here, man and boy, 30 years. How old was Hamlet? 30 years. Now, when you first read Hamlet and you're getting up to here, how old does it seem like Hamlet should be? When Mel Gibson did his version of Hamlet, by the way, in the 1990s, he was like 46, way too old. Kenneth Branagh, the 2000, whatever, 1996, 97 version that he did, he was way too old. Hamlet, a character and actor, should be about 30. They wait, however, because their acting chops develop. But should be around 30. Does Hamlet sound like he's 30 before this? No, most people usually assume late teens, early 20s. Why else? University student. Come on, man, get a life. Get off the federal dole and get a job. Because he's like a perpetual university student. Okay, we will stop there. We're going to pick up on Friday. Remember, there's no class on Wednesday because I've got to stay home with my wife after her surgery. We're going to pick up on Act 5, Scene 1, page 1322, around line 157 with Yorick. Okay? Have a good few days.